make a loom knit shawl just like the needle knit version. The Step It Up loom knit shawl is a beautiful crescent shape that easily drapes around the neck. The long sawtooth edge is an eye-catching design feature that you're going to love. And the striping, well, you don't have to change your yarn because we're going to be using a long color changing yarn just like the Karen Cakes or Bernat Pop. So thank you so much to Yarnspirations. And we're going to be going over all of the things you need to know for this today. Once you get the beginning started, you only need to know this section to continue going on and make a beautiful shawl. I have lots of ways to help your memory so you don't even have to look at the pattern later on. So join me today and work on the Step It Up loom knit shawl. Welcome to GoodKnit Kisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches. All right, in order to begin, we're going to need our loom and a tool and our stitch markers. You want 2 stitch markers you can easily move around. I would suggest getting 2 different colors. Don't use rubber bands because these are going to move around the loom on you. You'll see why later. You're going to want your knitting loom. I'm using the all-in-one loom, and I've ordered the 20 peg extenders that match this size. So this is a 3/8 or small gauge loom, and I have at least 114 pegs. Now this one actually has more, so I can make it larger if I want to. We're also going to need a ball of yarn. Now I'm using Karen Cakes. This is blueberry shortcake, and that's what the pattern is written for. You might want a second one, so make sure you've got the same die lot in a second one just in case you want it larger. You can also use Bernat Pop, which is what this sample is worked up in here. It's slightly larger gauge. And I do want to caution you a bit about this loom though. It doesn't come with these 20 peg extenders, and if you have a knitting board 28-inch loom with 20 peg extenders, don't switch out the pegs for that because they're slightly larger gauge than this one. You can alternately use that loom instead of this one. It's just that your stitches will be a little bit bigger, and that's fine. All right, grab your supplies and let's begin. Be sure and click down on the link below to get your pattern off of our blog. See you soon. All right, we're going to long tail cast on or double E-wrap cast on the first 3 stitches. I'm going to start all the way on one side. This pattern is going to kind of walk down in this direction. So I'm going to put a slip knot on, however you like to do it. Place it on that first peg. And I'm going to work this stitch over one more time for double E-wrap. Lift up and over. And then work the next one, double E-wrap, and the next one. So we've got 3 on our loom, and now we want to add a stitch on this row. We're going to be working in the opposite direction, and in order to add a stitch and keep all the stitches continuing on this side, I want to move the stitch. So I'm going to wrap it first, okay? Lift up and over, and then pick it up and move it over and place it. And then now we're going to knit the next one, lift it up and over and place it. So we have knit 2 stitches, and now we want to yarn over. We're actually going to do an E-wrap yarn over. So we're wrapping it just like an E-wrap and then leaving it alone. And then we want to knit this last stitch, and it's an E-wrap. So this is an E-wrap knit. And now we have 4 stitches on our pegs. Now we want to work in the opposite direction for our next row. So bring our yarn to the front, and we're going to purl across, and we want to move these last 2 stitches and put a yarn over before the last 2 stitches. So we're going to purl 1, and then purl 2, the second one. And then we need to yarn over. So in order to do that, we're going to pick up this very last stitch and move it over 1. And then pick up the second to last stitch and move that over 1. And then we're going to yarn over E-wrap. Okay. And then we're going to purl the next stitch and purl the last stitch. And so you should have 5 stitches on your loom. Now we're going to work in the opposite direction again and knit, but we still want to put on a yarn over 2 stitches in. So what do? We're going to knit that first stitch and move it over, and knit the next stitch and move it over, yarn over, and then E-wrap to the end. So now you can wrap a few pegs one after another, and you should have 6 stitches on your loom. You're going to continue this method until you have 14 stitches. I'll keep working this out. So we're going to purl until we have 2 stitches left on this row, and we're going to move them over. So we'll move the stitch, move the next stitch, yarn over, and purl to the end. Okay, and now we're on an E-wrap row. So we're going to work that stitch and move it, and work the second stitch and move it, and then yarn over, continuing to increase 1 each row, and then E-wrap the rest of the row. So when you fully wrap a whole row in E-wrap, you're going to notice that these first 3 stitches don't have 2 loops on the peg. Okay, so you know that you did it right. If you go back and you lift this last one up and over and you realize that you have more stitches down here or more wraps down here, then maybe you didn't do the increase before, and that's a good indicator. So I'm going to continue going along, and you do your purl row. So at the end of each purl row, purl until you have 2 stitches left, move your stitches, and yarn over increase. And then when you begin your knit row right after, you can knit and move the first 2, and then yarn over to increase every row. Pause your video and come back when you have finished putting on the 14th stitch. See you soon. All right, so you have 14 stitches and you should be on your 12th row and beginning on this side. This is where I would purl. Now we're going to bind off purl-wise. So we want to work the first 6 stitches purling them, or you can bind off purl-wise by binding off as you normally do. Instead of knitting, you're going to be purling, but I'm going to teach you a little hack right here to make it easier. So you're going to actually bind off as many stitches as you need plus 1, and then I'll show you how to move the stitches over. It's a really quick way to bind off. But first, I'm going to show you a way to indicate how many stitches you need to do. Because sometimes in binding off, you might say, oh, well, I already worked 6, but actually you only bound off 5. So let's go ahead and count over and mark where the 6th one is. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pick up this stitch here and place it, okay, and then put that right back on. All right, so we're going to bind off everything that's underneath here, including this stitch marker here. Go ahead and purl, and let's not make it too tight, just regular purl stitch, because this will be bound off and we don't want it all squished tight. So go ahead and work those. And if you have not bound off before, this is different. So if this is your first project ever, congratulations. This is awesome. That's your first one. Go ahead and work one past where the stitch marker is. Go ahead and purl. It's going to get purled anyway, so even if you finished out up to the last 2 stitches, that would work too. So I'm just going to do a few here. So this is the way you normally do it. You normally would work 1 peg and then work the 2 peg and then move the 2 over to the 1, which actually we'll do right now. So move your 2 peg over to the 1, okay, and then you lift up and over and move the 1 peg over to that empty space, and now it is your next peg that you work with. So normally you would then start knitting or purling this next peg and do what you just did with the moving, but we've already worked all that yarn in the right order. So now you just need to pick up the 2 peg, move it to the 1, and lift up and over. Move it again to the empty peg. All right, take the 2 peg, move it to the 1. Okay, knit that off or work that stitch. Move it to the empty, continue going. You will just want to continue going until all of the stitches have been bound off and the peg that has a stitch marker is empty. All right, one more. And there we go. Notice you had to purl 7 of the pegs in order to get it, get the 6th one free. So we've got all 6 of these already done. You now have this bound off stitch. So before it looked like a triangle, and now we've got this little ledge on here. And so now we're going to be working back and forth again, except we're actually working in this direction when we are increasing. So we're going to be increasing stitches this way, and then decreasing again these. So I'm going to go ahead and teach you one of the tricks here, which is to pick this marker up, and we're going to put on the 6th one over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so next time when we have to decrease, you'll know exactly where those are. So this is where one of the little memory hacks kicks in. Okay, so you're not going to do anything with this for a while until we're ready. All right, so let's finish out row 12 by purling until the last 2 stitches. So you will still continue to increase on every row, even on the row where you just decreased. So this side is always the decrease side, and this side is always the increase side. Okay, so now we're ready to move the stitch over. Okay, and now we've got our yarn over and purl. Okay. All right, let's do our next memory hack. I'm going to take up my stitch marker for the increase side, and I'm going to put it underneath this peg here. And this peg is going to be my memory peg for later, and you'll see why. So just keep in mind that it's right here. And now we're going to begin our pattern repeat. So this is the next section of the video, and you may want to rewind this section again in order to get it. But this is really the part, once you've got the beginning, this is the part here that you are going to be performing over and over and over for the remainder of your project. All right, so we're just going to begin by increasing. So we're going to increase by knitting and moving over 1, and knitting and moving over 2, and yarn over, and then E-wrap to the end. Okay. And then work those stitches. Okay, yarn to the front and purl to the last 2 stitches. Pause your video as needed. Okay, and move the stitch. Last 2 stitches here, and yarn over and purl to the end. Okay, so now that we've done those 2 rows, you can see that we have 2 more to the side or the outside of where this increased stitch marker is. Okay, so this is a cool indicator here of counting how many pegs are to the outside of this. We're going to count until we have gotten 9 outside of here, not counting what's on top of the peg. So we're going to continue working and doing the increase 2 and yarn over, moving our stitches as we go and knitting to the end. And then we do our purl row and increase at the end. So you're going to work on these, pause your video, and meet me back up when you have 9 stitches to the outside of this increased stitch marker. All right, pause your video and I will see you soon. Okay, so what you've done, if you haven't realized it yet, is on the written pattern, you have worked up to the 9th row, and you have worked it just as your very first row, which is knit 2, yarn over, knit to the end of the row. So the 10th row, you're going to be binding off the first 6 stitches purlwise and purl to the last 2 stitches, and then we'll yarn over, increasing, just as we did at the end of that very first section we did. So the way we do our bind off purlwise, we're going to bind off the first 6 stitches. So we're going to, we're going to purl the first 6 stitches. So purl all the way and to this stitch marker, and then add 1 more. So technically do 7. Okay. And if I've been going too fast since your first time purling, I do have a slower video on purling, but let me just stop by showing you slow. So put your yarn down below and scoop it up, making a loop. Take the old loop off and put the new loop on. And I should have done that at the beginning of the video. I'm sorry about that. So now we've got those first 7 stitches done. We're going to bind off the first 6. So we're just going to take peg 2, and move it to peg 1, lift up and over, working the stitch, and move it over. Take peg 2, move it over to peg 1, work the stitch, move it to the empty peg, and continue working along. And after this last one, we have a peg with a stitch marker here, okay? So we can take this stitch marker and remove it and continue purling. Okay, purl. And now we have a stitch marker here. We can go ahead and pull this off. I'll show you what to do with that. And we're going to move it all the way down to the end where it's empty and place it here. Okay? You're actually going to be working right on top of that. Keep purling until you get to the 6th peg down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is the critical part of how we move our stitch markers, our increase and decrease stitch markers. We're going to pull that loop off. We're going to put our decrease stitch marker on at the 6th peg, okay, and continue working just as you normally would until you have 2 stitches left. This is what you'll do at the end of each round 10 where you're decreasing. Oops. All right, so now we're going to increase, move our stitches over. And this gets it to where we are on top of that stitch marker, that increased stitch marker, and we have our 10th stitch. Okay. All right, so now you can start repeating this section and you get one of these. So we've got our first stair step that was from that first beginning section. Then we have our pattern repeat, which is this stair step here. I'm calling this part a step because it's got that sawtooth step it up pattern, right? So you're going to continue repeating those rounds, or I'm sorry, you're going to continue repeating those rows, and it's going to start walking around the loom. This is the part of the video I want to show you how to kind of finish up yours. So here's an example over here. All right, so I've zoomed out so you can see my loom. This is more of the loom. We were actually working along this edge just now, and you can see a shawl that has progressed over here. For me, I actually originally cast on along this side here, and then that actually worked about 5 or 6 of these steps, and then it started turning the corner. And so as you can see, it progressionally keeps moving down. You see how this one's moved down here? It'll continue to move down, but it's going to grow and grow and grow. Eventually, there'll be about 114 stitches covered by the time I get to as many of these step repeats as I need. So the pattern is very versatile. The fewer repeats that you make of these steps, the shorter they are, like make a neck scarf or something. And then the more you make, the longer the wrap. If you want to make a longer shawl, you can easily calculate how many more pegs you need. The written pattern uses 26 of these repeats, which covers 113 pegs. So for each additional repeat, you'll have 4 more pegs. That's just the math of when they slide over and move like that. So all those notes are in the pattern. On this pattern note here, it actually talks about that here. And at the end of the pattern, you can see how you're going to continue repeating these 10 rows, and then until you get the 65 inches or those 26 repeats that I talked about. You'll bind off purlwise, which is the same thing that you already did. It's just that by the end of it, you'll end up having 1 stitch at the end, and so you'll just yarn over and cut your yarn over and pull through, and you'd be done, and you just have the beginning and ending tail to weave in. And that is all. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial here for making the Step It Up knit shawl. I really enjoyed making it on needles, and then the fact that everybody wanted to do it on loom. So thank you so much for that request. If you have other requests for videos, please comment down below and subscribe if you haven't. I hope you catch me every Friday here on GoodKnit Kisses. Have a great day and happy knitting and crochet. Bye everyone. Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.